Buckeyes.
And a pleasant good afternoon. Happy Derby Day. And we are live here at Lone Star Park. Thanks for joining us. With Rick Lee, I'm Jim Byers. Boy, we have a lot to cover. So without a lot of ado, which sometimes I can spill out here when we start, let's get right into it. We're off the turf once again. Keep an eye on the, right now we're saying muddy. That can change, obviously. A little bit of sun peeking out. Let's get on to our 11 race analysis. We're going to go a little quick today. Rick and I have a Derby pick. At the end, pay a special attention to Rick's pick. Rick's been very hot this week. Let's get on to it. First race, off the turf. 5/8 on the main. Scratch the 4, Rec K, the 7, Sangiovese, and the 8, Senor Bonbon.
Yeah, very difficult race here to start off the card. The 2, Party of 15, is my choice. Has not raced since October. That's okay. Those races were as a 2-year-old. I finished second in 3 consecutive races, all at Remington. One was on a muddy track, and that was his best performance to date. So I'm going to take trainer Steve Asmussen with Party of 15. The 5, that's a no-no. Debuted at Oaklawn and a maiden 50. Those races are much stronger than this field here. Finished 8th by 6. But has moved to the barn of trainer Danny Pish. And again, this is a significant drop in class. Horses that run at Oaklawn typically run very well here. And then the 9, Win One Dobbs for Brett Calhoun. Brett's heated up in the last couple of race days. This horse comes off a really nice second-place finish at Houston, steadily ascending buyer speed figures as well.
Yeah, you know, I have the same picks in the same order. I noticed from the program, and you will do this, which is wise. Alter your picks when races come off surfaces because it's a different race when it comes off the turf. And you were originally like, that's a no-no. And switching, obviously, with the race now being different. I'm on Party of 15 as well. First time gelding, has had some time off. I like the fact that Asmussen gets a bullet work into this horse. Now, it was only 7 workers on April 26th, but shows that maybe now as a little bit more mature runner, and gelded, first start of the year after a freshening, shows a good 3/8 work. I mean, it's not, you know, breaking stopwatches or anything, but it was the fastest in the morning. I like that. You know, he burned a little money his last couple starts of last year, but those were mile races. We'll see how he adjusts to the sprint. So I got the same picks in the same order. You know, that's a no-no. I watched that race from Oaklawn. You couldn't really see a lot because whatever late progress he made was off the screen. He was so far back, so there was a little bit of an unknown quantity there. Second race, 1 mile, bottom level maiden claimers.
Yeah, and I went to the bottom. Gumbo, the 6, Steve Asmussen, Stuart Elliott. This horse debuted in a maiden special weight race, taking the biggest drop in racing from a special weight all the way down to a maiden $7,500. The horse is by Speightstown, who is one of the absolute best wet track stallions there is in horse racing, so I think he'll like that. He has had 2 works on a wet track, none of which show in the PPs, but that was earlier in his career, and those wet track breezes were pretty good. So on the big drop in class and being a Speightstown, I like the 6 Gumbo. The 2 Sassafras has the really good second-place finish at Houston in his last race. Trainer Calhoun dropped this gelding down to this same level there at Houston, again, getting that second-place finish. The third-place finisher behind Sassafras did come back to win, Moro Trump. And I think Sassafras may also get an easy lead in here because there's not a lot of speed, so there's plenty to like there. And then I went with the 3, Malibu Prince, who does own the field's fastest buyer figure. That was in his first start here of the season at Houston, going 1 mile. That was a nice third-place finish. I also like the work. April 15th here, the fastest of 51, 47-4. So there's things to like about Malibu Prince as well.
Yeah, I mean, if he runs back to that, and this is a big if, but if he can run back to his second career start at Del Mar, a mile, he was well beaten by a horse named Time to Testify, but I think he wins this race. You know, I went with Sassafras over Gumbo. The thing about Gumbo is that race at Houston is so unrepresentative. I mean, it was at a higher level. He was the only firster in that February 24th race. The horses in that field had come from all over. There were a couple of Houston runners. There was one who had made his last start, I think, at Del Mar last summer. There was one that had started, I think, at Hot Springs. it was an interesting collection of horses with more experience than Gumbo, and he was just so ineffectual. It was on a different surface than today. To me, it was a complete toss, and basically not just draw a line through it. It's like it was irrelevant. So I don't know what to make of this guy. I mean, they're obviously kind of giving up on him. He was an expensive yearling, relatively speaking. I don't know. Asmussen dropping him to the bottom, it scares me a little bit because sometimes they're just trying to get him claimed. So I went with Sassafras. That's not a very emphatic pick either. So I went 2-6-3, but we'll see.
Yeah, Sassafras has also been competing against Texas breds and hasn't been able to win. So, but I do think he's dangerous because I think he'll be cruising on a pretty easy lead.
So we will see about that one. The way this week has been going, I had a really good first week. Not so much the last couple days. Fourth race. Are we up to the fourth already?
Third
race, sorry. I flipped too far ahead. Third race. 1 mile. Mostly stretch outs in this mile. And we've got a group of 5.
Yeah, and I like the one. She is a blank for trainer Danny Pish. I believe he has the top 2 betting interests in here, the 4 and the 5. Not much on turf, this 3-year-old filly. The dirt races at Houston, again, against much better than these, kind of made mild rally sprinting. I like the 2 works since she arrived at Lone Star Park. Fastest of 36, 11th of 76. So off really fast recent works. And this field isn't much, obviously, a Texas-bred bottom-level maiden claimer. So I've given her the slightest of edges over Landon's Congo, who last time out badly overmatched. The thing I like about her the most is I think she's the fastest in this field, probably beyond the lead, takes blinkers off. A lot of times horses relax a lot better. The last time Sorensen rode her is by far the best race of her career, too, finishing second, going 5 1/2 on an off track. And then I went with the 2. She's a Hunk, has done nothing but sprint. I do like the fact in her last 2 sprint races, she went from 10th to 7th, making up ground, then from 8th to 4th. So she's been finishing with energy. If she likes a routed ground, then once again, in a race with a lot of question marks, who's to say she can't win?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't use her, but I can see why. I mean, it's weird. I had her 5th out of 5. You had her 3rd out of 5. That's a little variance there, although we do have the same top picks. My 3rd pick was the 3 Outsmarted. Did show a mile race, now earned a rather low buyer figure of 20, but, I mean, the par in this race is just 38, and who knows if the winner will make that. That was 2 races back. Responded with a kind of an ineffective race here against Bubble Line, who happened to be a filly that I picked here on opening night, but nonetheless, it's going to be interesting between the 4 and the 5 to see how those pitches shake out. I think he kind of has a firm grip on that particular race. 4th race, filly and mare, A other than allowance, going 5.5 furlongs, and we end up on different runners in here. I went with the morning line choice, but your choice is right behind on the line, so they're pretty even.
Yeah, I went with the 4 Stay Thirsty Amigo. Asmussen's off to a really good start this season. She raced on turf last time out, so as usual, you draw a line through that. Previous to that, 3 consecutive winning efforts in optional claiming races for this Asmussen trainee. Really close to the lead in 2 of them. Another race showed really nice versatility coming from off of the pace. And all 3 of the wins had come after Asmussen claimed her. So she's unbeaten sprinting for Steve. And then I went back to this nice Prairie Meadows race in the fall in the mud where she was a winner. So she loves to win. She's won 6 of 12 at the distance. She's 1 for 1 on an off track. And Asmussen, I think, has her spotted really well. The entry, Susie's Dream, is the one I think is people will be playing. Comes off a second place finish at Oaklawn Park in a starter allowance. That was on an off track as well. She finished second in an optional claimer at Fairgrounds also. So she's got really good form right at the moment. No worse than second in 4 starts this season, again, for hot trainer. And then let's go to the 3, Girl You Find, who, again, really good races on the main track at Houston and at Remington Park. Last 2 starts are on turf for trainer Kevin Scholl, who's one of those great under-the-radar trainers that wins a high percentage of races.
Yeah, I had her ranked 4th as well. I went with the Broberg entry in this one. I understand Stay Thirsty, My Amigo was in really good form until that turf sprint, and things didn't obviously go well there. That was kind of a puzzler, but it should be easy to overlook that. But I still lean toward the Broberg entry. By the way, Grillin is staying in. Raylu Gutierrez is picking up the mount on Grillin, who's the other part of the entry. As far as Susie's Dream goes, seconditis the last 3 starts. Only one of those for Broberg, though. Comes out of an Oaklawn race. Does show a win on an off track. I don't know. Used to win, it looks like, earlier in her career more than she does now. To me, it was kind of a coin flip. I went with the 5 Lovey-Dovey as a third pick. Last race obviously stopped on the turf, but the main track effort before that was decent. So looking for a third horse, that's who I used there. On to the 5th.
Yeah, and every horse in the 4th race has the same pace figure, so it's really anyone's guess who's going to make the lead in the 4th.
That's a good point. On to the 5th. We've got some scratches. This one's off the turf at 5/8 on the main track. Scratch the 2 Outer Banks. And that horse was a $700,000 auction purchase at one point. Scratch the 4 Vehement. Scratch the 6 Barge Man. The 9 Hannes, and the 12 No Mo Hooch.
Yeah, the 10 Chris's Wildcat. Again, has raced, you could say exclusively on turf. First time, though, for Diodoro. The workouts have always been really good on this gray. I mean, from the, for over a year now, all of his main track races, our workouts have been very good. So I'm expecting him to transition well. Plus, he's been competing against so much better in Southern California. So I'm going to go with the Diodoro trainee. The 1-horse Gradester is my next pick. It's been almost impossible to beat to the front. Now this race is 5/8 of a mile on the main track with his terrific early speed, just being a lightly raced 3-year-old, dangerous on the front end there. And then the 8 DC Hero is my next selection. Just off the claim, and then 2 really nice workouts for new trainer Ray Ashford. I felt like if there's going to be a sleeper in here, it would be DC Hero.
Yeah, I agree. I almost picked DC Hero on top, but wound up going with Chris's Wildcat as well and sticking with him after the surface switch. I went 10, 8, and who's my third pick in here? This is race 5. I went with the, it was originally the 4. Well, my picks are the 4 is out too, so I don't have a third pick yet in this race. I'm sure it'll be Gradester because you point out his good speed, and I was looking at that earlier when I still thought Outer Banks was in the race, but he is out as well. On to the 6th. Maiden special weight Texas breds here, going 1 mile.
Yeah, and the 3 King Congo, I mean, he looks good in this position. These are Texas bred maiden special weights going 1 mile. He's run a 1 mile at Houston his last 2 starts. Both of them, he finished second. The last one, I know it was second, beating 11 lengths, but the winner was 2-5. I mean, no one was going to beat Ghoster. Now he's back in with his own kind, we'll say, and off 2 good races. An outstanding young trainer in Austin Gustafson. He's the one to beat. 7 running in the red, raced well last year here in maiden special weight races. Came back at Houston on an off track and sprinted and finished second. That was a really good race. After 2 sprints, stretching out, that's an angle for a lot of horse players. They really like it, and I think running the red is sitting on his best race right now. The 4 First Bump Ridge has the fastest last race buyer figure, finishing 3rd. Earning a 59 figure. Again, rallying from far back to get to 3rd. Does have 2-turn experience as well.
I turned things upside down a little in this race. Sometimes I get a little too into trainer handicapping and wondering why trainers do things, but Steve Asmussen went in and claimed for $7,500 the 1 Vicks Lincoln Lawyer out of a bottom-level race at Houston going 1 mile like today. The horse didn't run a whole lot. Jumps this horse right into a Texas-bred maiden special. I mean, I got to think the barn saw something in the previous races that they saw that might have been useful. And he claimed him for himself, too. It's not like he had a client say, I really like this Vicks Lincoln Lawyer who ran, 6th back in September at LAD. Let's claim him. But I took him on top. He gets the inside. I'm going to take a shot with him here. I wasn't enamored with King Congo's finishing effort last time. Ghoster admittedly was 2-5 and was in a race by himself, but King Congo was kind of life and death to hold off another horse from this race, a few dollars more. And, the thing about King Congo, the rider that day, the last time out, was hard using him the last 3/8. I mean, he was all in for the last 3/8 of a mile, and still saw Ghoster just draw away in his own race. So I don't know. I didn't really love the way he finished. So I went 1, 3, 4 in that one. On to the 7th. Texas-bred non-winners of 2 claimers sprinting 5.5 furlongs. Scratch number 2, Cha-Ching Bling out of this race.
Yeah, I went with the 5, Theorist in here, who comes off a nice confidence-building maiden win at Houston, drawing off after setting the pace to win relatively comfortably. Revolutionary, I looked, and he's an outstanding wet track sire. So just off those 2 things, the improvement under Broberg, wet track pedigree, and keeps Eichelberry. So there's things to like there. The 1, Snap for a second selection. After a maiden win at Houston, came back at this condition and has finished second in back-to-back races. Good early speed, has added blinkers to 2 starts. That seems to have helped. We'll see by this race if inside speed's doing well. If it is, then you can move Snap up into a more probable winner. And the 4, Doc's Gold, again, this is a one who's always forwardly placed, has the benefit of a race over the track. He raced here opening night. Was close to the pace for $20,000 before finishing 5th, now dropping in for $7,500.
Yeah, and, this horse has toiled at this level before Doc's Gold and, was reasonably competitive, certainly early in races. I got him 3rd as well. I went with Snap. I went with inside speed here. It's interesting that, he and Theorist, I mean, they kind of look similar to me on form, but Snap has been better with blinkers the last 2 starts. Theorist has run his last 2 without blinkers and has improved without them. So you got one horse that doesn't like them, one that does. And to me, it was a coin flip, so I went 1, 5, 4. Okay, on we go to race number 8. We've got some interesting scratches out of this off-the-turf affair. The 5, Henley's Joy, who I figured would scratch when the race came off the turf. Both of the number 1 entry mates are out as Mosh and got the right one, Baby. Also, the plain number 2, Space Mountain, is out, and the 6, Easter Snap.
Yeah, we're going to have a very heavy favorite, I believe, now that we're off turf in the 2, Hunk of Burning Love. He did win the Lone Star Million last year here, beating a very good Sleepy Eyes Todd, who's a graded stake winning type. Comes in off of some really stellar races at Oaklawn too. One in defeat, but he kind of lays over this field, I believe. He's very quick. Expect him to go right to the front and do all to hold there. The 4, Bourbon Wisdom, is my next selection. First start for Diodoro, came on a off track at Houston March 24th. It was a condition claiming race, but he won by nearly 8 widening lengths. The runner-up came back to win. Looks like he's gotten very good for Diodoro. Buyer figure also, puts him in the ballpark with the rest of the horses in this race, other than Hunk of Burning Love. And the 10, Harvey Wallbanger, good competitive buyer figures as well. Had been running at fairgrounds where the quality of racing is really good. His last race wasn't quite as good, but he moved up into a 2 other than condition. Now he's back basically where he belongs, but you give anyone any shot to beat Hunk of Burning Love in here?
No, I really don't. Certainly not at this distance.
Right.
If they went a little longer, I might like Harvey Wallbanger, who did win the Holy Bull, a Grade 2 race, just 2 years ago, and he was on the Triple Crown Trail for at least a few minutes. He was kind of a charismatic long shot winner of the Holy Bull because he came from the clouds and got up and won it. And of course, now he's toiling in the upper claiming, allowance optional claimer, in this case, allowance type ranks. Earned $422,000. I just don't know. I mean, he tends to run well from a stalking closing position, but this race is a mile now. I'd like it better if it was mile and a 16th mile and an 8th. So I give him the second look and Bourbon Wisdom third. And but yeah, I think Hunk of Burning Love, he was probably, if a horse can hope, certainly his connections were probably not minding the continued wet weather over the recent days because they get to run on the main track. Hunger Burning Love did try the turf here last year, and it wasn't a bad effort, but it was nowhere near representative of what he does on the main surface. On to the 9th. Non-winners of 3 claimers here going 1 mile.
Yeah, the 2 Ardently Star in this, to me, highly contentious race gets the edge for me at least. Good early speed. Been showing that speed, sprinting, now stretches out. Has competitive figs, dropping to the lowest claiming price of his career. And I also like the really sharp recent workout, 48 flat. The 3-horse King Ford has not raced since November of 2019, but I really thought the public would appreciate the class level with which he was running at previously. Good recent workouts, and trainer Carl Broberg. These are the toughest types of horses, not only for picking, but for setting a line on it. And then let's go to the one, Regs for Riches, who was a 3-length winner at Gulfstream Park West in October last year. Again, on that sloppy track. Hasn't raced since February, which is okay. Comes in here fresh. It looks like his best races out of Florida. Put him right there at the wire. And Iram Diego, one of our better riders, has the call.
Yeah, and Iram isn't getting on as many live horses as he did 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, but he's still Iram Diego, and he's getting on horses that, tend to be overlooked in the wagering, and he can be very dangerous. I took a shot. I'm on the Asmussen bandwagon big time today. I took the 4 Dias. This horse last time out, it was not a good effort at all. It was a 1-turn, 7/8 race. It followed an effort where he was bumped, but at the 5/8 pole, he was bumped and he hit the rail. Actually, it was more like the 5.5. They had just straightened out up the backstretch at Sam Houston. He was bumped. He hit the rail right where it straightens, and he lost like 3 lengths in an instant. And then he came back with a pretty poor effort last time. But if you go back farther in the winter at Delta and Houston, this guy will be right there with him. I'm thinking maybe he can come back. We'll see. I'm taking a little bit of a shot because there were things about King Ford. It's interesting you mentioned it's tough to do a line on him. I wrote watch toad action because, with a Broberg, those type of horses coming off these long layoffs, especially a Broberg that's been working pretty well, if he gets bet real hard, then look out. I wasn't as fond of Rags to Britches. That's why I tried to beat him. He's coming in off Florida form. Some of his Florida races are certainly good enough. I just kind of wondered if we'd be hitting that 60 buyer par for this race. I don't think this race came up that strong. So I took a chance with Dias and went 4-1-3. We'll see. Now, we got a video here for the 10th. We're going to our friends at Delta Downs in southwest Louisiana to watch Eyes on Point, who was admittedly my original pick here. Ms. Falsetto, the 5 is scratched. She would have been a solid favorite. We're going to watch Eyes on Point on April 1st at Delta. What we want to watch in this one is he sits behind a slow pace set by the 3-horse who's on the lead. Eyes on Point's in the white silks. Now, keep in mind, the stretch is only 1/8 of a mile there, and he was sitting behind a slow pace. He angles out. I think he makes a really good bid, Rick, coming up on this 3-horse. The 3 is going to hold on and win by a head. Actually, kind of a short head.
Yep.
But I really like the way this horse picked it up the final 1/4 of a mile at Delta. I liked him already in this race just because I don't like the stretch outs as much as you do, and you burn me with that sometimes. But I was on Eyes on Point before, so I'm sticking with him here.
Yeah, that video proof there. He's in really good form right now, too. In the 7/8 of a mile, our 2-turn races at Delta. I went with another Delta horse, the 4 Malibu Midnight for Broberg. Last race at Delta, going a mile and 1/16. You can see he made it to the front and drew off to win by nearly 6 lengths. Broberg went to the turf course in an allowance race after that, was 1-paced. Now back to dirt, dropping to $7,500. You do notice every one of his races in his career, or her career, have been around 2 turns. So I just like the route experience. It looks like she's doing well right now, and certainly at a level where she can be very competitive. You talked about Eyes on Point. I'll go to the 3. Blame It on Brew is my next selection. Just some real solid late running sprint efforts now on the stretch out, and does have 2-turn experience at Remington. And the races at Remington weren't all that bad.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be an interesting race. With Ms. Falsetto out, that was her first try at 2 turns, stretching out. Had been going okay with blinkers. She would have been tough to beat in there, but I was going to try to beat her. We'll see now. We'll see if I can beat the other Broberg. In the 11th race here, we have 3 scratches now. Let me flip this. The 3 mid-year is out. The 5, Don't Mess with This Cat. And the 6, Samborita. Filly and Mare Allowance off the turf at 5 furlongs.
Yeah, and the 2, Tiz Magic, is my best long shot of the day. Been lucky enough to hit the last 2. This one is really benefits from Don't Mess with This Cat coming out, because I was fearful that there might be a bit of a speed duel, but Tiz Magic is extremely quick. Now cutting back to 5 furlongs on the main track. Clearly a better on the main. I revisited the December 2nd race at Remington, where I gave this horse a big buyer figure of 70. That has turned out to be a key race, and the horses coming out of that race have proved that number probably belongs to at the 70 range. Good race at Houston, beaten by a 4-5 late running sort last time out. So I'm going to give Tiz Magic a chance to win. Oh, one other thing, the dam, I did look her up. She ran 1 time on a muddy track and won. So I'm really trying to make a case for this one, Jim.
Yeah, I think your long shots are going to be 3 for 3 here. Is the way.
Well, I hope so.
That's my takeaway from this.
And then the 4, Clayton's Candy, who I made the favorite for Asmussen. Look at the last 4 races. I mean, right there every time. Mud track experience. Has enough speed to be in a perfect position turning for home. Clayton's Candy deserves favoritism, I believe. And then the 8, Secret Mistress, who has been up at Oaklawn Park and, again, showing speed at Oaklawn, shipping here to Lone Star Park. Secret Mistress for Moquette, certainly an obvious contender.
So you're going 2,
4, 8.
4, 8?
Yes, sir.
I'm going with the 4, Clayton's Candy. When I fall for favorites and stick with them when the race comes off the turf, and you go with a more imaginative pick, you generally beat me, but we'll see. You never know. Clayton's Candy's been in good form. She doesn't have the kind of early gas that Tiz Magic has for sure, and I definitely used Tiz Magic on my suggested modest pick 4 ticket today, which is only $15. But Clayton's Candy's gone well with Lasix of late. Had a pretty good campaign at Fairgrounds. She's going to be a short price. I took her over Secret Mistress and Tiz Magic. If I had a little more time to rethink it, and we are in days when we're off the turf, a little bit of a scramble mode coming down here. If I had a little more time to think it over, I probably would have moved Tiz Magic up a little bit, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, Kentucky Derby. Interesting field this year, I think. When I'm not the biggest Derby follower from back in January, let's say, or even late last year. It's not really my thing. But it seems like this year's a pretty interesting cast, and a lot of horses kind of want to be forwardly placed. Maybe that's the way it is a lot of years. You get a lot of eventual sprinters in the Derby field, but it seems like there's a lot of horses that seem to want to do their best work up front.
Yeah, and this year I feel like Rock Your World, he's just quicker than the rest of the front runners. So that's who I picked in here. He was unbeaten on turf, and then they tried him in the Santa Anita Derby. Went, to me, rapid fractions and just kept on going. Drew off to win impressively. My thought is if there's a great horse in this field, it's probably Rock Your World. The rest of them are really nice, and they might go on. But right now, he has a chance, I think, to be pretty special. So I took Rock Your World. Hot Rod Charlie was another one. I thought I had it down to those 2. I wanted to beat Essential Quality. Then you'd look and you're like, okay, Rosario's been riding both of them. I mean, he picks Rock Your World, so why would I go with Hot Rod Charlie? So I'm on Rosario's bandwagon, the good early speed. And I do want to mention Superstock, who won the Arkansas Derby. He trained here at Lone Star Park before he ever raced anywhere, which makes it special. Then he won one of our futurities, our 2-year-old stake races last year, too. So my heart is really for Superstock. I'd love to see the Asmussen family, win this race.
Yeah, I would, too. You try not to be too sentimental in this sport. When you're at the windows, obviously, it's hard business. But, yeah, I mean, it would be great to see a horse that, was originally developed here and raced here the first couple times. You know, back in the 80s, I had the privilege of working for several years at Hollywood Park, and it was common to see horses in the Derby and in the other classics that I had seen as maidens and whatnot. I mean, I called Ali Sheba before he ever hit the big stage, horses like that. But it's been, 34 or 5 years since I've seen a horse that went on, other than some of the horses we did have at Remington, like Clever Trevor and whatnot, that did run in the Derby, but that, started here and moved on. So it's kind of cool. It seems like with the Kentucky Derby, you really want a horse that's going to peak today. You don't want a horse that peaked last year. That's why those Breeders' Cup Juvenile winners tend to not. As a Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner, I don't think they've ever won the Derby. No. I don't think. But nonetheless, I'm going with Known Agenda in the race just because I think he might be coming to hand, like your top pick, seem to be coming to hand now. I'm not sure how much stock I put in the Florida Derby quality of field. We'll see. I mean, we'll see how it plays out. But I don't mind a horse that's had the feel of dirt in their face and that's used to coming from behind. And he doesn't look like the type of horse, though, like that's going to drop 20 lengths back. He's not a sudden breaking news type closer. I think he's more of a stalker closer. So we'll see. I don't know if he's good enough to beat your horse. And Sadler has your horse, correct? I saw Sadler when he was a young trainer in Southern California. It'd be cool to see him win a race like this, too.
Yeah, Known Agenda. He's got the rail posts, which some people don't like because he can get crowded down in there. But you know what? It's crowded for all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't make it to the top, it's crowded. I mean, it's all working out the trip. It's always about the trip in the Derby.
And much has been made about the new 20-stall gate, making it a little easier on those drawn inside. That's been a major topic this week at Louisville, and we'll see if it pans out for him. Normally, though, you wouldn't gravitate toward those one holes.
Right.
Plus, they end up standing in the gate a little bit longer, too. Even if they load them two at a time, if they load that one in there first with somebody else, you're standing in there for a while.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. Hey, we got done at the same time we did yesterday, and we talked about 12 races. Good luck today. We will be back, Rick and I, tomorrow, back to the usual post tomorrow of 2:35 Central. In the meantime, good luck and enjoy your day.